What could be more terrifying than a ghost ship? How about a ghost ship filled with half-eaten meals, a poker game left in the middle of a hand, and clothing strewn about as if the crew had just vanished into thin air? Welcome to the most horrific and mysterious abandoned ship in history, the ghost ship Mary Celeste. The year is 1872, and the location is the Atlantic Ocean. The story starts out like any other voyage. The Mary Celeste, also known as the Amazon, set sail from New York for Genoa, Italy. The cargo, 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol and 1,400 boxes of various general merchandise. There are 4 men aboard: Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife, and 7-month-old child, along with 3 other crew members, all experienced sailors except for the captain's wife and child. It would be an easy trip under mostly fair weather conditions. On December, after 19 days at sea, the Mary Celeste is sighted off the coast of Portugal. All seems well, and there are no immediate concerns. And then 5 days later, on December, a British ship named the pilot spots the Mary Celeste off the Azores Islands, a Portuguese archipelago in the Atlantic. The ship is drifting aimlessly and is not in any distress. There are no sails set, and the anchor is down. The pilot follows procedure and hails the ship, but there is no response. As it approaches, however, it sees something that makes the hailing crew go pale. There is a small boat with a red flag flying in the position that would normally hold the ship as lifeboat. But this is not an emergency signal. Instead, it's simply a black ball indicating that the ship has cargo below deck. It should never be flown unless the vessel is ready to be boarded. Why is the lifeboat missing? The ship appears intact, and there are no obvious signs of damage. The only sign that anyone had recently been on board is a half-smoked cigar on the main deck. As the pilot gets closer, it can see the crew of the Mary Celeste have left their posts and some of their belongings behind. In the captain's cabin, they find a half-finished game of cards, a bottle of rum, food, and other personal items. The cabin boy's bed is neatly made with his clothes hanging in the closet. In the galley, they find a half-eaten meal with plates and silverware laid out, as if the cook had just stepped away to help with some work on deck. A lantern hangs from its hook, and a pot of stew bubbles over a fire in the stove. Even the ship's cat has apparently left in a hurry, leaving its bowl of milk untouched. In the brig, which is where the prisoners are kept, they find a Bible open to Psalm 137. By the rivers of Babylon we sat down. Yea, we wept when we remembered thee, O Jerusalem. There we wept when we remembered Zion. The verse suggests captivity and homesickness. Is this a clue to what may have happened to the crew? The Mary Celeste is brought to the nearest port, but it's unclear whose decision this was. The ship is adrift and not in distress, so it should have continued on to Genoa. But the circumstances surrounding the missing lifeboat and crew are too suspicious to ignore. Once the ship arrives, authorities find no record of the Mary Celeste having sent any distress signals. Every logbook entry up to the 5th of December has been neatly written out by Captain Briggs. There are no rips in the sails. The cargo has not shifted, and there are no signs of a struggle or bad weather. There is no evidence of piracy, mutiny, or suicide. The ship remained anchored in place for days, suggesting that the crew had abandoned it while it was moored. But why? Theories immediately begin to swirl around the town, and soon newspapers across the United States are reporting on the strange occurrence. Was it pirates? They took the lifeboat and kidnapped the crew, but left all their valuables behind. Or perhaps it was a violent storm that caused the crew to abandon ship. Or maybe the crew rioted and threw the captain and his family overboard. Or maybe something unknown and sinister, like giant waves or mythical sea monsters, attacked the ship and the crew, killing them all and leaving the ship undamaged. And who could forget the ghostly explanation? Perhaps the entire crew succumbed to illness and expired before washing away into the sea. Maybe supernatural forces took the crew on a ghostly journey to a watery grave. But we may never know because no bodies are ever recovered and no one knows what happened. The Mary Celeste eventually reaches Genoa without its crew. Its owners claim the insurance money for the lost cargo, and the ship is renamed the Amazon. For the next 20 years, the ship makes regular trips between New York and Genoa until it runs into another unexplainable mystery. In 1891, the ship is sailing from Barcelona to Genoa when it is caught in a violent storm. After 12 hours of relentless winds and rain, the ship runs aground on the coast of Corsica. It is abandoned, and the crew takes refuge in a local inn. But the next morning, a rescue party finds the ship floating in the same spot, now with clear skies and calm waters. Did the storm suddenly stop to allow the stranded sailors to escape? Was the storm a trick of some ghastly, elusive sea monster? Or was the Amazon cursed? The Amazon continues to make voyages for the next several decades, until it's finally decommissioned in 1908. The ship sits idle for a few years, but rumors persist that the Mary Celeste may still be haunted by the restless spirits of her lost crew. Then in 1911, the ship is moved to the coast of Connecticut to be used as a storage facility. Local children dare each other to come close to the ship, claiming that the ghosts of the crew will pull them into the water if they do. And the stories continue. In the 1970s, someone lights the ship on fire. Although it is restored once again, the image of the burning ghost ship remains in the minds of those who witnessed it. Then in the early 2000s, the Mary Celeste is moved yet again to a shipyard in Rhode Island. And here the truth comes out. Experts determine that the burned areas of the ship are consistent with the 1970s incident, and the ship is deemed safe to explore. And here's the kicker. Nobody knows exactly what happened to the crew of the Mary Celeste. The truth is, the ship was never really investigated properly. Only a few people toured the vessel after it was abandoned, and they did not do a thorough search. The ship itself offers few clues as to what happened. It's as though the crew simply disappeared, leaving behind nothing but unanswered questions. This lack of evidence has led to speculation about everything from natural disasters to mythical beasts, leaving us with more questions than answers. So what really happened to the crew of the Mary Celeste? We don't know. But here are a few theories. One theory is that the crew was lost to a massive wave or rogue wave. These waves are much larger than normal breakers and can reach heights of up to 100 feet. They can appear unexpectedly and without warning, causing even the largest of ships to capsize. This would explain why there is no sign of struggle or distress. The crew was likely knocked off the ship in an instant. However, there is no evidence of such a wave occurring at the time, and not even a dent in the ship, which should have been damaged by the force of a rogue wave. Another popular theory is that the crew was lost to a storm. Storms can cause chaos on the open seas and have been known to sink even the largest of ships. It's possible that the crew of the Mary Celeste became trapped below deck and drowned. However, again, there is no evidence of a storm occurring at the time. And the ship should have been damaged by high winds and heavy seas. It is also possible that the crew was taken by pirates. Pirates were known to attack merchant ships and kidnap their crews. It's possible that the pirates killed the crew and threw their bodies overboard. However, there is no evidence of piracy at the time, and the pirates would have stolen valuable cargo instead of leaving it behind. A mutiny by the crew is another possibility. Mutiny is an act of rebellion against the ship's captain and crew. It's possible that the crew of the Mary Celeste mutinied, throwing the captain, his wife, and child overboard. However, there is no evidence of violence or a struggle, and it's unclear why the crew would abandon ship. It is also possible that the crew was taken by sea monsters. Sea monsters are legendary creatures said to inhabit the depths of the ocean. While there is no evidence of sea monsters, it is possible that they are responsible for the disappearance of the crew. Finally, there is the supernatural explanation. It is possible that the crew was lost to a curse, or that the ship is haunted. This is purely speculative, and there is no evidence to support this theory. What do you think happened to the crew of the Mary Celeste? Let me know in the comments below.